Hi, my name's Phil.
And my name is Rob.
And we've been mates for years. We've done loads of stuff together.
All of which, mainly, have turned into chaos.
But someone then suggested, why don't you do a podcast? That seemed like a good idea, didn't it?
Really did.
Then we realised neither of us have ever done one of those. So is this going to work?
Well, we'll find out, won't we?
Welcome to Two Pastors in a Pod. So, another episode then.
Have we started?
We have. Oh, you never start
I
properly.
need to ask the producer. Producer, Nathan, have we started? Do you know what? We've started. Welcome to another podcast.
So this is number 10.
10.
So we think this is number 10.
Double figures.
Double figures, and we're not on our own. Another episode, another podcast, and another guest. Mark, lovely to have you with us.
It's got
Fantastic to be
the
here.
memo about the uniform.
Yes, I know, yeah, I noticed
Blue on white.
Yeah.
I didn't notice, not only am I wearing something different, I'm the
Yeah.
only one who's found a razor.
Well, I've told you, no, this is on trend, isn't it, Mark?
On trend with what?
is,
The
well,
1960s?
Well, you have got more on your chin than on your head, but that's another subject.
I have
isn't
not
it?
got much natural protection on the top of my head, I must admit.
is that-
Yeah.
Well, I've got to be honest, we're really pleased you're here, Mark. Mark,
Yeah,
just
thanks for having me.
tell us a little bit about yourself, a bit about your family, your background.
Yeah, so I'm Mark Chester. I'm married to Sue. We've got 2 adult children. So we've got Meg, who's 26, and Billy, who is 23.
You don't look old enough to have kids.
Oh,
Thank you.
He uses
Phil.
that
Thank
line.
you.
He uses that line on
I'll
everyone.
I'll just ignore Rob now.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
So
You know, it's a much better pod when you're talking about Karen.
So, we live in Cheshire. I work for Care for the Family, so do all sorts of family support, parenting support. I'm one of the founders of Who Let the Dads Out as well, which is a project that supports dads and their children. So churches set up groups and run them once.
You're also a bit of an author, aren't you? Look,
I am an author, yeah.
Even found a book with your name on the
Wow,
bottom
that's
of
going
it.
back a bit as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how many books have you written?
So, written. How many books have I written? That's a good question. 6 books.
6?
So, yeah, 4 on my own and 2 co-authored with other people.
Do you reckon we should do book writing?
No.
Let's
move
do
on.
the writing.
So one of them was on football, wasn't it? If I remember correctly.
It was, you're right, yeah. It was called The Soul of Football. Yeah, it was. It was a bit of a fragment of autobiography in a way, about my life and my faith and football. And then there were some reflections on kind of the nature of faith and just using football as the medium to get it across. Really.
So were you a good kid? Yeah. Were you a good kid when you were younger? We've asked a lot of guests that.
Was I a good kid? Yeah, what do you think? Do you think I was a good kid, or do you think I was a rebel?
Should we leave that to the audience?
Yeah, maybe they're sitting there looking at you thinking, oh, he looks like a posh kid.
I definitely wasn't a posh kid.
So where's the accent from?
So originally I'm from Liverpool.
Yeah.
So,
Another one.
Sorry.
Do you know, we've had people writing and say, can we have other than Scousers on it?
In a few weeks' time, we're getting someone from Manchester.
Wow.
And then in August we got someone from Scotland.
Yeah, so we are gonna balance it up.
Quite
a
an
little
exotic podcast, isn't
bit.
it?
Tell me, come on in. Good kid or bad kid?
So I on the whole, I was a good kid, to be honest. I like to please people, so I went about life trying to please people. Occasionally there were episodes where I wasn't very good, but nothing too serious. I'm probably a bit more rebellious now than I was when I was a kid.
Yeah. But you still like pleasing people, hence you came on our podcast.
I still like saying yes to people.
He couldn't say no to me.
And then it's funny, isn't it, when you say yes to people, and at some point you normally regret it. And here we are.
Well, do you know what? You might regret it when he gives you that cup of tea.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this.
Right, so when I was a kid,
more looking forward to the biscuit.
When I was a kid, my grandmother, lovely old lady, in Cambridge, we used to have to sit around a kitchen table every afternoon, and she'd get a fine china out, which for me as a boy was not a great idea. Fine china out, and we had to have a cup of tea. Now, it is time for Best in Brew. Now, we've had some Best in Brew sent in. This one came from somebody in our own congregation who suggested we should have this. Now, let me just describe it, okay? It is a herbal tea, described as a delicious herbal tea that you can have with milk or without milk.
Is this without caffeine?
This has natural caffeine in it. Okay. So I'm going to pour it. Now,
what's the difference? Is I didn't think there was synthetic caffeine.
I believe you can get synthetic caffeine, but we'll be told by somebody listening out there.
He's quite a connoisseur, isn't he?
Oh, be
no, he pretends to.
Right, do you want milk with yours?
No, I'll have
milk
my
with
black,
yours?
thank you.
No, thank
Oh,
you.
right, well, I'll have milk with mine. Now, so the idea is you've got to smell it, you've got to decide what's in it.
Okay. Yeah.
Blimey, that and half strong.
I think I know the member of the congregation
that is-
who gave you this.
Okay, well, have a taste.
How many tea bags did you put in that? You
Two.
only meant to put one in.
Well, you whinged last time, it was 2 running.
No, you did.
All right.
Because it was my
So-
tea bag.
How can you tell the member of the congregation just from the smell of the
Because
tea?
I think I've been... because I,
Just and without insulting the member of the congregation.
It's a perfume.
I think I've been to their house.
Oh, right.
Right, okay. Have a taste, see what you think.
Oh yeah, it's that. I know what it is. Blech.
What do you reckon, Mark? Do you like
Yeah,
that?
I like that.
You like that?
I
What
like
do you
that.
think it is? What do you think it is? It's
I don't
herbal.
know.
It's got 2 names.
Is there any chamomile in it?
No, it isn't, but it is made from a plant.
I know what it is. It's a colour
It is.
and it's a plant. And it's called Red Bush.
It is. It's red bush tea, which is
Yeah.
South African.
So I do know the member of the congregation
South African. Now-
whose this is.
Now, it's also got another name.
Yeah.
Rubos. Rubos?
Oh, yes.
Rubos.
Yeah.
Rubos.
Because it's from a plant by a very similar name, but there's a couple of things beneficial from it.
Go on. then.
One, you can dye your clothes with it,
Really?
apparently. And the other one is it's very good when you're pregnant. That's the benefits I
I've
read.
been trying to work on that.
I've got to be honest, I'm not sure I'm a fan.
So come on and give us a score.
I'm afraid that's a 5 for me. That's
Yeah,
not.
no, it's like a 2 from me. So sorry, member of the congregation.
Okay.
I know who you are and you're
Oh,
listening.
no, I'd
Yeah.
go for a 7.
Would
I
you?
would, yeah, I really like
So
that.
2,
I really
5, and
like that.
7 for Red Bush tea. So don't forget, send us some new ones in. Apparently, there's some very unusual ones out there. So send them in because we'd love to taste them. But speaking of this being really good when you're pregnant,
You can have your biscuit back.
oh yeah, you can have a
Oh,
biscuit.
thanks, yeah.
Thank you to Nathan.
I don't know whether it's-
I'm waiting for this segue here. There's
don't
a
know.
great segue coming in.
it's right.
It's halfway
I
through.
know. Do you know
and
what?
You just interrupted this
He
segue.
tries to do these segues and I interrupt.
Yeah,
it's,
I know.
it's a part of the game that we
Nothing
play.
more annoying than when someone introduces a great segue, is it?
The only thing I can think more annoying is working permanently with someone who does that.
I noticed that you've positioned me in the middle of the two of you.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like I'm sort of a referee here. Is that right?
What's your segue, mate?
You wouldn't want us. So,
Starting from the beginning again.
starting from the beginning. So, if Red Bush tea is good for you when you're pregnant,
Yeah.
that means it's good for the family. And since we've now got a segue into who did you say you worked with?
I love that.
classic.
I love that. That's great.
How can you
Yeah.
get from Red Bush tea to
Yeah.
care for the family in one easy lesson according to Pastor Phil Wright? There you go.
You've got to be an expert.
So,
haven't you?
so-
Slick. That was slick. Yeah.
Instead of just
Yeah.
saying, well, tell us all about care.
So,
Tell us all about care for the family.
So yeah, I work. I work for Care for the Family. So people listening, some may be familiar with it, some may not be. But we do all sorts of stuff to support family life. We do projects for single parents. Take single parents on holiday every year on special activity holidays. We support parents who are bereaved, who've lost a child, those who have been widowed young. We produce all sorts of books and resources. We do live events. We do support for parents of children with additional needs. Who Let the Dads Out is one of our projects, and there's lots more stuff.
And so, is this purely for Christian families, Christian parents, Christian kids? Is it purely for them?
Not at all, no. Our work is accessible to people of all faiths and none. So most of our work, it doesn't have a faith element to it. Obviously it comes from a foundation of faith, but it's accessible to lots of people. But we do have a strand of our work that is faith specific.
How did it start?
So
What was the vision for Care for the Family?
well, it started 35 years ago by a guy called Rob Parsons,
Yeah.
who was a senior lawyer in a senior partner in a 10-office law firm, and he'd set up one of the largest legal consultancies in the UK. But he left the legal practice behind and decided to establish Care for the Family because he wanted to support families. He wanted to promote strong family life and also to help those who were struggling through family difficulties. So that was 35 years ago, and Rob's still involved day in, day out, now 35 years later. And obviously the charity's grown and the work that we do has grown over that time. So that's how it began.
So you've obviously been involved with families, and you see. I mean, do you personally get involved involved with families yourself, or are you got a team of people who do that, or do you just provide resources?
We do a mixture of stuff really. So we do provide resources for other people to support families. So say, for example, one example, we do a number of different parenting courses. So a church or a local authority or another organisation, a school might pick up those resources and deliver it to families, and we'd support them to do that. We provide them with the resource, we train them. But then there's also work where we engage with people directly. So for example, one of the projects I've been involved in for the last few years has been the single parent family holidays. So we heavily subsidise those holidays. This year we've got spaces for 40 families on the holidays. When we open the application window, it's open for 3 weeks, we have 220 applications.
Wow.
So the demand for those is really high, because they're very cheap, and people regularly describe them as life-changing. So we take the families away to an activity centre, and we put in some hosts, we train hosts, and we put them in to work with the families.
Because it's interesting with kids, isn't it? That you come home, we've all got kids, but you come home from hospital with this little bundle of whatever, and basically get on with it.
Yeah.
I mean, what was your reaction, Rob, when you came home with your first kid?
One of fatigue.
Yeah, had it been a long birth, had it?
What have we done? What have we done? But three daughters later, having a family is a real blessing, isn't it? It's a test as well, but it's a real blessing. But learning to bring your kids up and bringing them up well in the Lord is something that is a very much a learning experience, and something that you learn from others from, and but you learn from this, don't you? You go from this and you try and teach the kids up to grow up in the way that they should go. But it's not easy. It's not easy being a dad or a mum. Family life, we're all sinners living together, aren't we? And we can often rub each other up the wrong way. So if we've got Christ at the centre, always try to keep Christ at the centre, then it's a lot easier. But it's not easy. So you've been in the family business, if you like, for... How long have you been at Care for the Family then?
I've been at Care for the Family for about 6 years, but I've worked with them for over 20 years, so I've done stuff freelance for them, and I've been involved in family work for about 22, 23 years.
So have you seen any trends in family life over this last 2 decades, I guess, Mark, isn't it? Are families getting stronger or not?
Yeah, interesting question. I don't know whether they're getting stronger or not, really. What I do notice is that I suppose a lot of my work with families has been done with fathers. Not all of it, but a lot of it's been done with fathers. What I have noticed is the different role that fathers are playing now. Yeah. And I feel quite positive about that, actually, about the changes that have happened, because I think it's quite a golden age for fatherhood in many ways. Because equality in the workplace, which has grown because of the technological revolution, strength isn't needed in the workplace. So obviously, it's more equal in the workplace, which is great. And I think what that results in is that there's more opportunity to have equality at home as well. So dads can get involved in the lives of their kids more. We share the responsibilities out more.
I can see that.
And so I think that's a great.
Do you think that's part of? Because I'm a chaplain at a senior school. And with all the teenage issues, and maybe we'll touch on some of those later. But with dads, we're recording this just a couple of days before Father's Day. But there was a point where men clearly didn't know where they fitted in society. Do you think post-COVID, that has now made, post-pandemic, that has made a difference to how the family unit functions?
I think it has made a difference. I mean, COVID, I think, has made an enormous impact in all sorts of areas of family life. And I think we're still trying to work out exactly what that impact is and how it's going to work out. I think, there's more people working from home, obviously, as a result of COVID, which means then they're getting involved in the daily life. I think that can be really satisfying, but it can create tensions for guys as well, actually, in terms of, well, what is our role? It was clear in the past. We knew we went out to work, we earned the money, we came home, we played with the kids a bit, and that's the stereotype. It wasn't always like that. That's the stereotype. But it probably was a bit clearer, wasn't it? And now
define roles.
And now it's like, well, what exactly is my role and what's the priority? In the past I knew it was to go out to work and earn money and put bread on the table. Now I'm not really sure what the priority is. I think that causes, at the same time, there's the opportunity and pleasure. I think there is some tension. And I think, I was just talking about this yesterday. We were recording something with somebody who had burnout, and really he was saying that I was trying to be great at everything, and I just couldn't keep it all going. And in the end, I just kind of crashed. And I think that's the tension, isn't it? And I think sometimes we just have to let go of that perfectionism a little bit.
Absolutely. I mean, some of us find that more difficult than others to let go of perfectionism. And,
this is where I need to referee again.
Yeah, I'll referee again. Just getting back to families again. So, why Who Let the Dads Out? What's the point of that?
So we started it at our church in Chester, Hull Baptist Church, back in 2003, and we'd always been a very community-minded church, and we ran a parent toddler group. My wife Sue ran the group, managed the group, 3 mornings a week, bursting at the seams, packed to the rafters, but mostly mums, hardly any dads at all in reality. And some of the mums were complaining about how little the dads of their children did with the kids. Now, I don't know whether that was reality or whether that was perception, but it didn't really matter, because what was happening was it was causing some quite severe family tension, and we were concerned about that. We thought, well, we need to step into this, but how can we if we only know the mums and we only know the kids? We need to get to know the dads as well. So we decided, just as a one-off in 2003, we'd run a parent and toddler session for dads, father figures and their children. Exactly the same as a weekday parent toddler session, but we do some bacon butties, put out some newspapers.
And you've got to have the bacon butties, haven't you?
The bacon butties are absolutely crucial.
Do newspapers still exist?
Well, we don't bother anymore.
Oh, we don't bother with newspapers.
We don't bother with newspapers anymore. But back those days, that was an indicator that this was for guys, strangely. But do you know, in the lead up to that session, we were praying about it, we were talking about it, and we were saying, if we can get 6 dads that come along, because it was a different time back then, dads were harder to reach really, and there wasn't anything like this out there, or very little. We said, if we get 6 dads, it'll be an encouragement. We know that numbers doesn't necessarily mean success, but we've all been there when we've put something on, we've sat in the room, no one comes. It's discouraging. So we thought, if we get 6 dads, it'll be really encouraging. And I stood on the door that morning, and when we opened the doors, I welcomed in 20 dads and their kids. 18 of those dads never stepped foot inside the church before. So we knew then there was more to that. Yeah, and there was more to that than a one-off. And so it went from there. We ran more regularly. We still run every month.
And it's all over the country now.
And it's all over the country. So currently we've got about 165 groups across the UK and a few abroad as well.
And so there are people out there who are interested in their church getting involved in this ministry. They can contact you.
They can.
Well, hopefully Nathan, our producer, will get all the links and put at the bottom of the thing.
He's good.
The thingamajiggle, the flip that he does, and all the information will be out there in the address.
I've got another question. This question about our families, all right? Every family. I read a quote this week. From Les Dawson.
What a theologian.
What a part-time theologian.
Nathan probably hasn't got a clue
who Les Dawson is. He was a pianist once. Les Dawson once said this: families are like fudge, mostly sweet, but made up of a few nuts as well. Every family's got some eccentric individual in it.
Yeah, your daughter was telling me who the eccentric was in their family.
Yeah, it was our Auntie Beryl. We've got an Auntie Beryl. She lives in Wales. If you're watching, it's unlikely that she's watching this. But if you are watching the podcast,
Auntie Beryl,
we love you, Auntie Beryl.
I apologise.
But Auntie Beryl was slightly eccentric.
Yeah.
Do you know anyone in your family who's eccentric who you can talk about? Or are there eccentric people you can't talk about?
There are eccentric people probably can't talk about, to be honest. I probably am the eccentric person in the family.
Really?
No, there's I mean, every family. You're right. Every family has unusual people in it, doesn't it? And sometimes, let's be honest, that can cause some difficulties for some families.
Sometimes.
But for other times, it's just entertaining.
It's definitely entertaining.
It's great to have a mix of people in the family, isn't it?
Yeah. What about the White Way?
Well, not necessarily the White Way clan, but the church family. There are a few eccentrics.
Yeah. Just a few.
Which church are you in?
Well, usually they wear purple shirts and blue t-shirts.
You are a funny
they bring
man.
silly teas onto podcasts. Well, no, yeah, I guess. Well, we've had our Jane on the podcast.
You have had your Jane. She's unusual.
Our Jane is probably
the most unusual.
I love you, Jane, and I know she listens to this.
Yeah.
And I will get an immediate text as soon as I've said this on the podcast. But yeah, there are eccentrics in every family.
Yeah.
So as pastors, we are always talking to people, meeting people. As I say, I work in a senior school with teenagers who just are all over the place, particularly with modern technology.
Yeah.
I mean, Rob, you're more kind of au fait with stuff like that than I am.
I wouldn't say I was au fait with it, you know, at my age. But yeah.
I have to say, if you'd seen him trying to use a sat nav on the way here today, then you might not say he was au fait with technology.
We got lost, Nathan. But anyway, that's another story. But yeah, technology is adversely, in my opinion, affecting family life big time. I mean, I'm a governor in one of the local schools, and we had a presentation from the SEN lead the other week, and she was saying how more children are now on the SEN register, the special education needs, and she was saying obviously post-COVID has affected that, but she also said technology is having a detrimental effect on kids. She said at nursery school level, some of these kids are coming in with American accents. Because what mum and dad are doing, I know what mum and dad are doing are just sticking a tablet in front of them and letting them get on with it. And she's saying that mum and dad are forgetting now to engage with their kids, and you know they spend their evenings just scrolling through the phones instead of getting down to their level and engaging, and that is having a detrimental effect on our children.
So you must have seen some massive changes.
Well, yeah, the smartphone that's probably, I'd say, probably the biggest change to family life. Well, to just society, isn't it? That there's been in our lifetime anyway. I mean, it's huge change to society and culture, and we're still in the early days in many ways, aren't we? We're still trying to adapt, I think.
I mean,
well, you were telling me yesterday about the dumb phone.
Yeah. So now Nokia particularly, but there are other companies who are producing dumb phones
For dummies.
For dummies. You should do well. But they're producing these, and it's big business where people are now shunning.
Yeah.
But you were saying in the car that we both watched the same news report about the BBC doing something on kids. Was it for 25 days or something? They had to go without their smartphones, and half of them gave up.
Yeah, and they gave them the dumb phone instead, didn't they? But the ones who didn't give up, it's interesting because they said, well, actually they felt that their relationship with their parents improved. They started to communicate better with the parents. They felt they had the opportunity to be more creative, slept better, those kind of things. So, but they're not going away, are they? No. Smartphones aren't going away. So it's kind of like, how do we incorporate them into family life in a healthy way? And I think, and this is a challenge for me personally, the biggest thing is, how do we use them? You know, as parents, we're the role models. Yeah. We set the example, don't we?
I mean, we had a ban on them at dinner time and stuff like that at home. But if you've got parents who are watching this podcast who are struggling with their kids, and we're now talking kids from 6 upwards, who are just so feel bereft if you take your phone away from them, or feel insecure without a phone. How can we encourage them? How should we be advising parents to handle the whole technology issue?
Well, I mean, a few years ago, I when I was at another church, and I think I've done it once at the Cellar Church as well. I promoted TFS, Technology Free Sunday, and PC Dave, he did it with his family, and I remember him telling me in the evening how it was a good day, a good Sunday, because they talked to each other. They had no technology, no Xbox, no whatever one of the PS54. Whatever,
I said you were quite up with technology.
Yeah. Well, none of that. It was just eye contact, conversation, maybe the odd board game, and also getting around the Bible as well, and Sunday being a special day. So technology free Sunday. Have a go.
So that's certainly one way.
Yeah.
I mean, is there anything else that the Care for the Family would encourage parents who are struggling with this?
Do you know, there's no golden ticket to this. It's going to be something we struggle with for years, I think, and each family will work it out differently. But one of the things we encourage families to do is to come up with something that we call a media agreement, really, And to get the family together, it sounds formal, it doesn't have to be formal, it can be very informal. But getting the family together, teenagers, younger children, whatever, everybody together and agreeing together how we're going to deal with technology. So putting in the boundaries, deciding when technology can be used, when it can't be used, what you do if you find something unsuitable, what you do with your phones at night, all those kind of things. But actually, rather than the parents just telling the kids, right, these are the rules, because then it leads to a bit of hostility and conflict, is get people on board together, discuss it together, write it down if you can, and there might be different categories of things that you could do, like yes you can, no you can't, don't even think about it or up for discussion or whatever they are.
Yeah.
But just having a family media agreement. And I think, yeah, it doesn't have to be written. It can just be talked about. But if you make a big thing of it, you say, right, we're going to have a chat about this. We're going to get some snacks in. We're going to just make it a fun evening. And I think if we can give our children a stake in the decision making, then they're more likely to follow the rules that we all decide together. But the challenge in that is we have to stick to those rules as well.
Absolutely,
which is really difficult.
I mean, I've got a friend of mine who's in a position where they're able to go on a holiday each year. It can be Cornwall or Scotland or wherever. But when they go away, there is a technology fast as a family, all of them. Yeah. So they literally go dark as they go away with family, and for them, that kind of works. I mean,
holidays have changed though, haven't they? I mean, I remember, going back 15, 20 years, going away with a family, and the kids were smaller then, and there was no technology. The only thing you had was a television and a radio.
And that only had 3 channels.
And a CD player, remember them? So there was a lot more interaction. And I've recently come back from a family holiday in the lakes, and I was just sitting there observing, and myself in all of this. So the grandkids now were put to bed. We'd played them all day, blah, 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 blah. But then in the evening, we're all sat there. Yeah. Phones out.
Yeah.
Hours and hours. It has changed. And we need to really think this through, because our interaction, our relational stuff is going out the window.
Paul writes to the Ephesians in Ephesians 6:4, and he says to fathers, don't exacerbate. I had to look that up. Don't exacerbate your kids.
Surprised you could say it.
I said it twice now. Don't wind them up. Don't anger them, but rather bring up your children, train them, and instruct them. Now, to me, that's kind of, as parents, mum, dad, foster parents, step parents, it's engagement with our kids. Particularly as pastors, we often have Christian parents saying, I've got teenage kids who just are in their bedrooms, or is there a mechanism that's better for engaging our kids when this is an issue?
Yeah, when you talk about those things, it says in the Bible, I think about coaching really. I think about sports coaching.
Okay.
The best sports coaches don't just tell their athletes what to do. They work with their athletes, don't they? And they help the athlete themselves reflect on their own experience and learn from their own mistakes and their own experience. And then so when the athlete's in a situation, when they're out performing whatever sport it is, they're on their own. The coach isn't there with them, so they've got to make the decisions. They've got to take the responsibility. And actually, the best coaches, I think, help them to do that and evaluate their own performance. And I think that kind of feels like the same to me as a father. That we want to coach our kids. Yes, of course, it's appropriate to put in some boundaries and say, okay, these are the rules we do not cross here, and these are the consequences if we do, the natural consequences.
Because often that's one of the things, particularly with teens right now. Our education system, our society says, well, you make your own decision. There is no right or wrong. Whereas, Christian parents particularly, but there are others who say there is a right and a wrong. And sometimes kids just need to know this is over a red line here.
Yeah, if you run any institution, any family, any school, any club, any business, then there are always some rules. There are always some boundaries, aren't there? And they're appropriate. But it's much more effective if we can engage our teens, our children in that process. I know that's not always possible because we might have some very uncooperative children and teens. But so I know it's never going to be easy. And I think that's the thing, isn't it, with parenting? It's never easy in reality.
Yeah, it's one of the toughest jobs in the world.
And you're never going to have complete success probably. It's going to be about trying things not working, other things working, but just giving it a go, really.
For me, what underpins family life, and this comes straight from the Bible, it comes straight from our Father in heaven, is love. And love, it's tough love sometimes, and it's hard love, sacrificial love, because, as I said earlier, we're all sinners in the same family, and we do rub each other up, but we've got to love within that. And love, as the Bible says, it covers over a multitude of sins. So we need to be, first and foremost, loving our kids, come what may. So the door is always open, even when they disappoint.
Yeah, and that's certainly not just in words, is it? It has to be a practical thing. Yeah. Now, at times right now, we could talk about this for ages, but
I think we've only scratched the surface.
We have.
And he's not even had his biscuit.
He's not even biscuit yet. No, I'm going to have another cup of that lovely tea later when we finish, and I'm going to have that biscuit with it.
Give us a lot, mate.
So kind of last question, really. We're obviously pastors in a church. You go around and see a lot of churches. What's our responsibility to babes in arms, right the way through to those off to university. What is our responsibility as churches? How can we best help parents, grandparents and kids? Because there is a danger. We go to church and go, oh, we got a youth pastor, we've got a youth work, we've got a Sunday school. Don't get on with that. That's their responsibility. As a church as a whole, what is our responsibility?
Yeah, I think almost you've answered the question there that you're asking, Phil, because I think it is about helping parents and grandparents to parent their children, especially if we want to raise them with faith. Because it is easy, isn't it, to think, oh, okay, I'll just outsource that to the church. And I understand why people do that. We have a project at Care for the Family called the Kitchen Table Project, and it's all about helping churches and parents come together so the church supports the parents to pass on their faith to the children. Just stuff in everyday sort of churn of family life, really, ways they can pass on their faith to the children. So I think for churches, a great way to go is think, okay, well, how can we support parents to do the raising of their children, the passing on of faith in the home? How can we give them advice, guidance? How can we create a network of parents where they support one another to do that? Obviously, we want to continue to do children's work, youth work, and support young people through the church. That's really important. But I think sometimes what we can miss is that supporting of the parents, because ultimately they're with their children every single day. Indeed. And as churches, youth leaders, children's workers, we might be once, twice a week. But every day they're with the children.
And see, I've always maintained the fact that one of the things that we should be, particularly as blokes, as fellas, we should be the role models in church life and in church events, and that kids go, that's who I want to be like,
Lead by example.
Lead by example. Mark, it's been fab having you here.
So how can people get in touch with Care for the Family?
Care for the Family, how can we do that?
So the best thing is the website, careforthefamily.org.uk. Just take a look at the website, have a browse around it, and then if they want anything, they can drop us a line, and someone will get back to
them. And are there links to Who Let the Dads Out on Care for the Family?
There's stuff about Who Let the Dads Out, Care for the Family, the single parent holidays, the additional needs support, the bereavement support, all of the work we do. Brilliant. The website's the best place.
And if you're in the Ellesmere area in Shropshire, watch this space, because who knows, there might be a Who Let the Dads Out coming to you.
Indeed.
Thank you for watching our podcast. Yes. You can get in touch with us on the email at the bottom of the screen.
Do you know what we need a bit more of?
What do we need a bit more of?
Likes. So even if you sat there now, hit the like button. Even if you didn't like Mark,
Surely not.
Even if you didn't like Mark or even Phil, still feel sorry for him and hit the like button, because the more likes we get, apparently there's a thing called an algorithm. Told you I was up on the old tech.
You're good, mate.
And we get this out to more people if you hit the like. So do it now.
So wherever you find your podcast, don't forget, Two Pastors in a Pod. You can find us on any of the sites. We'd love to see you at this episode and the next. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks, Phil.